Hey, it's Rebecca Rutherford. Welcome to the What in the Well podcast. My friend Angie Huber and I are here to provide an entertaining and relatable perspective on well-being. If you want to shift your mindset and make incremental progress toward your work and home life goals, you are in the right place.
Rebecca, you're back.
Here I am.
We missed you last episode. Good to have you back.
I was so disappointed that I couldn't meet and interview Victor.
Yes, that's all right. You were with us in spirit. So Here we are, y'all. Episode 21. Welcome to, again, What in the Well podcast. We are glad, of course, that you're joining for the conversation with Rebecca and I today. And we also have another guest speaker, which we will introduce Jason to you in just a moment. But as you know, every other week, Rebecca and I are excited to bring you real-time, relatable, and practical tips for things we're experiencing as working moms. So if you have any ideas or things that you want to hear about or topics, please DM us and let us know. But let's get into it for today. So our theme, we're well into February. So here we are. For this month, we are going to focus on and for the month of February, we are going to focus on relationships. And for this particular episode, we're going to focus on the most important relationship that you have, and that is the relationship with yourself. Of course. So we have to talk about, and one of the important parts of your relationship with yourself is taking care of yourself. So how you eat, how you fuel your body, how you move. We did movement in January, and we want to continue to go deeper with the relationship with yourself with that topic. So without further ado, I want to invite or welcome Jason Rutherford. Jason, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to What in the Well.
Hear the applause in the background.
Thank you. Well, it's no coincidence that his last name is Rutherford. He is, in fact, my husband. I am Rebecca Rutherford, and he is the Jason Rutherford. And what's interesting about him being here is that, yeah, it's February, it's the month of love, but we're not going to talk about how much he loves me. We'll get to that another time. We're going to talk about how much Jason loves himself.
I was wondering when you said the topic for the podcast, is that why I was brought here? Because I love myself so much?
Hey, well, yes. As a matter of fact, yes, there is power in loving yourself. You can't love others unless you love yourself.
He's an inspiration to me. I always say, Jason, if we have one thing in common, it's that we both love you. I never have said that before. I'm just kidding.
No, but that's we're going to go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would say, though, that Jason is a good example of somebody who, despite anything else that's going on in his life, he still chooses to wake up every morning at a ridiculous hour, 3, 4 a.m., whatever it may be, to go to the gym, which is sort of admirable and a little bit psychopathic. Not my style for sure, but somebody's got to stay home and sleep and take care of the kids in the wee hours, right? But then the other part of it too is that not too long ago, he dove in deep on nutrition and became a nutrition coach. So not only does he manage an IT company, manage a family, manage my crap, but he manages to take care of his own self, which is a huge expression of self-love, even though I doubt he really thinks about it that way. So, thanks for being my husband, and thank you for being here, Jason Rutherford.
Oh, thanks. You're welcome. You took my intro. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Back it up, edit, do it again.
No, keep rolling with it. So Jason, tell us about you. Introduce yourself to our community.
I suppose the best way is just some core basics, right? So I'm 42 years old. I'm a father of 2. I have I'm sure you've mentioned this on the podcast, Rebecca, but we have a 6-year-old and an 11-year-old. I am a business owner. So I'm an IT consulting managed services organization. I've owned it for 10 years now. I'm managing partner of some other partners in there. And then somewhere in the last 7, 8 years, I picked up CrossFit, became a CrossFit coach, and then throughout that process wanted to dial in and understand more about nutrition. So I became a nutrition coach. That's pretty much who I am if we kind of look at it at a high level.
Yeah, and what I would love to know is when you said 7 or 8 years ago, you really started to tune in, right? Or dial in and it sounds like it's got started with CrossFit. What was the motivation behind that?
Well,
Like, what was your why?
yeah, great question. So, dating back, we're gonna go way back. We're gonna go the way back machine for a moment. I was a wrestler and a football player in high school, and I really enjoyed the physical aspect, the mental toughness, the pushing yourself, kind of the atmosphere of those two sports, right? And so throughout the years, I got invested in IT, grew my career, those kinds of things, but I got out of shape, but I didn't know I was out of shape. I was the last one to find out. In fact, there was a picture of when I found out. And I was
The
wrestling.
worst. It's the worst when you're the last
Yeah,
one to find out.
I know everybody else knew that I was out of shape, but I didn't know I was out of shape. And so I was wrestling Rebecca's brother on a beach, and I looked at this picture, and Beck can probably think of that picture. And I said, "What is that?" She goes, "Well, that's your belly." I go, "Oh my goodness." And so that's
When
the
did
moment.
that get here? When did that
What is
show up?
that right now? Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So I was put off by that. So I started doing things like running 5Ks and with some friends, and I got into a Tough Mudder. And when I got into the Tough Mudder, I still thought I was this athletic wrestler, football player guy, and I was not. And I injured myself pretty good. And when I went to the doctor for my foot at the urgent care, they said, you know, you might be pre-diabetic given your weight, high blood work, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And so it's worth, you know, talking to a medical professional. So I came home, I was defeated. I was, you know, my foot was hurting from the injury, but I was pretty defeated. And so Rebecca and I were actually talking, and she said, you know, one of the things you might want to try is CrossFit. Those people are crazy just like you are.
It's true.
And that was literally the conversation.
Those might be your people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And turns out she was right. So
Wife always knows.
That's right.
Yeah.
So the motivation was the picture, right? Or that was the catalyst, it sounds like. That moment that you can even call that was the catalyst. Yeah, to build the consistency and the discipline that you've done over the last, right, several years, what keeps you motivated? What's your motivator?
That's a good question. I don't know that. So motivation tends to kind of come and go, right? So if you rely on motivation, then I believe that you're setting yourself up for some disappointments and failures along the way, and then you'll beat yourself up, have some guilt, have some shame.
Yeah.
It's really about consistency and discipline is kind of the way that I think about it. So I'm not motivated to get out of bed. It's actually quite unmotivating at 3 a.m. to think I have to get up and go work out. But I am consistent and disciplined because consistency is what I believe leads to long-term health and wellness and success in all ventures, right? So doing the hard things that nobody really wants to do pays dividends.
Well, what he meant to say was that he's motivated by his wife, but the other stuff too.
Although I think there's that, right? But then I think you're hitting on such a key point. It's not, if we rely on motivation itself, that does come and go. And it's not there at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. when you're getting to go up to the gym. It is the consistency and the discipline. How'd you build that? Yeah, go ahead, Rebecca.
I was going to say, even more broadly, though, the whole concept of self-love, too. I mean, we're not always motivated every day to enjoy our own company. And so part of that is having the discipline to know that, the consistency to know that, you know, or part of that is being consistent about treating yourself well, even if you don't feel like it. Like knowing that when you're done with a workout, you're going to feel pretty good, even though going into it, you kind of feel like you're doing yourself harm, like not doing yourself any favors, not loving on yourself. But then by the time you're done, you realize what you just did for yourself, and it kind of boosts back up that motivation to take care of yourself and to love yourself.
Yeah, we talked
about that. I think a big piece of it too is setting proper expectations, and that, you know, there's this known kind of thing that happens in the fitness industry where the gyms get super busy in January when the first of the year happens, and then it kind of tapers off, and it's this really harsh downward kind of curve in memberships, or at least visits. And really, people are expecting that they can drop and change their body style and change their habits in a very 4 to 6 week, a very short amount of time, a very condensed time frame. So setting those proper expectations that you're in this for the long haul, right? and that some days you feel good and some days you don't feel well. And some days you eat well and other days life happens and birthday parties happen. And there's a certain degree of expectations that help drive that discipline, right? Of what you're trying to get out of it. So
I think that's a good point too. We always talk about memories over macros here, and, and we're not making memories every day. Although it feels like lately we're celebrating with food a lot, but 'tis the season. So
yeah.
Jason, talk to us about your mindset around this. So if you think back or dial back several years when you were really getting started with CrossFit and starting to rebuild that consistency and that discipline, how'd you do it? And you talked a little bit about mindset, but unpack mindset a little bit for us.
Yeah, I think whenever you hit a point, a reflection point of you want to change, right? Actually, Rebecca used to give me a lot of trouble because I use motivational quotes quite a bit. And she said that they're pretty cheesy, right?
I love
That's
a good
'cause-
motivational
Oh,
quote. So
no.
bring it.
Angie,
I love them. I do. I love them.
So,
what have you done?
having a background in music, I like listening to lyrics, right?
Yeah.
And there's plenty of lyrics that are motivational hidden in songs that you wouldn't expect, but the same path leads to the same destination, right? That's something that resonated a lot with me. And so when I kept thinking, I want to change, I want to get healthier. If I do the same things, I sleep in and I eat donuts for breakfast constantly, right? Or I'm eating sugar cereal, or I'm always having a soda, or when I'm drinking, I'm having Jack and Coke. If I do that same road, I take that same path, I'm going to get to the same results. And so that was a big piece in changing the trajectory in which I was heading.
It's beautiful. And I can visualize it, right? Like you can visualize if you're going down the same road, you're going to end up in the same place.
And it's not sorry, just real quick. It's not perfection, right? It's not saying that you're never going to do those things. It's saying that consistently you're going to make different decisions to get you down a different path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are you now? So bring us fast forward. So tell us a little bit about your current routine
Throwing
and
out my
process.
bag, picking up socks.
So
Yeah.
fast forward from the beach, right, and starting the CrossFit, and fast forward to where we are now. What's your process and routines look like?
Yeah, so in the nutrition program that I became a coach in, I learned a lot of things, right? So I'm a big data guy. I like checklists, right? I can follow a checklist. So I eventually boiled down a checklist for what it takes to be healthy. And we'll say, a certain amount of sleep, and I can give you specific numbers on all of these, but realistically, the bio-individuality of all this is so incredibly unique to what makes somebody healthy for them, right? Because everybody's different. Everybody's very different. We can give you general guidelines, 80 to 100 ounces of water a day. That may not be enough for you. That might be enough for somebody else. That might be too much for somebody else, right?
So for you, how much sleep do you need?
Yeah, for me, I'd like to say that I need more, but the reality is if I lay in bed for 12 hours or I lay in bed for 7.5, I'm getting 6 hours of sleep. And I have tried. I mean, Rebecca remembers I went through a process where I'm going to bed at 8 because I have to get up early. And I would try as hard as I could, deep, dark room, no electronics, have a good sleep routine, take some magnesium. I would do all these things to try to get to sleep, and I could just not sleep. And whether I'm measuring my deep sleep or my REM sleep, I'm getting about the same consistently. And so I think people have this misconception that they could be one of those people that run on low sleep. I'm not under that impression. I cannot find a way to sleep anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
So about 6-ish is about good enough for you.
That's about where I feel good. Right. Yeah. I feel good. And I've slept 8 hours, 9 hours before. And if my body needs that, I try to let my body have that. Or my mind, but generally speaking, 6 hours of sleep is where I'm at. 100 ounces of water a day is where I'm at, right? So this checklist, if I keep going down.
Yeah, keep going.
Protein is incredibly important. There's so much philosophy behind this, but having muscle on your body prevents so many things from degenerative disease to being capable as you get older. And the only way to maintain that muscle is through feeding your body the nutrients that it needs to continue to support and maintain and build that muscle. So nutrition's a big part of that. So protein, I try to hit my protein intake roughly a gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. So 170 to 180 grams. Some days I'm over that. Most of the days I'm not. That's really hard to do from whole natural foods, which I am not. I would love to say I get all my protein from that, but I use protein powders and bars. And I actually heard that a protein bar is a candy bar in gym clothes, which I thought was hilarious. It is. However,
They
if
are
you're
kind of
deficient on
delicious.
protein, right, that's something that I think about these things every day, right? So that discipline, this checklist. So those are part of it. I try to control the calories into what I call my maintenance, which is somewhere between 24 and 2,800 calories a day. So I'm eating a lot. Rebecca can probably attest to that I tend to eat quite a bit. But generally then there's the whole fitness part of it. And depending on my goal for the time of the year, I'm either lifting weights or I'm trying to get in better cardiovascular shape. I'll intermix the two throughout the year as I go. I don't really train outside of those two pieces. Like I don't train for endurance runs or anything like that, but sometimes I like to make sure that I can still run a mile. And so I go do that.
Well, I know what
Jason,
I've witnessed on my side too is that it's been this like evolution of experimentation, right? So out of the gate, I mean, when you started this journey, you were in your 30s, your body wanted to do different things chemically. It's not your fault. We all go through this. But you know, what worked for you 8 years ago then doesn't necessarily work the same way today too. So you know, I'd be curious to hear you talk a little bit more about how, like, I know you're a big data guy, and I know that with your clients too, you kind of try to take a period of time to learn where their baseline is, where they can maximize their potential as it relates to either whatever their goals are, putting on lean muscle mass, losing weight, etc. But you know, we're talking about a lifetime or a long-term approach to this and listening to your body when it starts to shift. So how has that been for you over the last 8 years?
It's been a challenge, right? So when I joined CrossFit, I was an ex-wrestler. So our mentality was, you know, you just kind of go to this dark place and you get through a workout and you go. And I had visions of trying to become competitive, at least on a local scale in CrossFit. So I did. I competed in some local competitions and took third and fourth and just never could make it, or fourth and fifth rather, never could make it to the podium, even on local competitions. And so as I've gotten older, what I've realized, so once I kind of got through the competition portion of it, I wanted to learn more about movement. So then I went and got coaching certified, not to coach people because that wasn't a passion of mine at the time, but I want to learn how to move better, just learning more about the sport that I liked. And then I found a passion for coaching people as there was a need that developed for coaching people. And then over time, what I've really come to realize is that your body changes a lot, your energy, and I have a whole theory on stress buckets, which I'll go through, but your stress changes quite a bit. And so tailoring what keeps you physically active, mentally healthy, energized through nutrition is not the same every day, and it constantly varies all the time, right? And so setting those expectations of what you can and are able to achieve given other parameters in your life is really something that I've really started to tune into in my body, right? So I'm no longer joining competitions to compete in CrossFit competitions. Now I'm joining strength competitions online because I'm in an age group and I want to try to see how strong I am compared to my old self, right? So things like that. I hope that answers your question.
yeah, two key points that are like kind of coming up for me as you're sharing. One is that back to that idea of like your checklist that you talk about. And like you said, you have goals,
Yeah.
but it's around striving to reach them and not being perfect all the time. Like you had even mentioned it, like generally I'm here. I'm not every day am I nailing my protein, but guess what? I'm getting more protein I'm getting more protein because I have the goal than if I didn't have it at all. So it's that whole like it's okay to be imperfect. It's a journey and the progress. Like have some goals and don't beat yourself up if you're not doing them at an A level every single day because
And that's
you're making progress. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a great point. One of my nutrition clients, who I'll keep a secret, but he was at a sales conference last week. And we've made some really good progress on getting his protein and his diet under control, and his frequency in which he's working out. And for the first time, and he said 10 years, he told me that this morning when I met with him, that when he was at a sales conference, he looked at the food and thought, how do I get protein in? Not that he wasn't eating cake and he didn't have some bourbons in the evening. He said, how do I get protein in? He's now conscious and he's aware and he's trying to make better decisions. That's the battle,
That's
right?
the win,
Yeah,
right? That's winning. That's
that's
progress.
absolutely right. He went to the gym twice while he was out of town, or at least at a hotel, went to a gym on his own. That's huge. That's huge.
Those are the wins. That's
Yeah,
the path to when you talk about different paths, right?
yeah,
That's taking a different path.
yeah.
And it's also helping to build, you're putting deposits in the bank to build consistency and discipline, right? Because that's
Yeah.
about what it is. And then
I
I said
love
I had a second point, but guess what? It's already flown out and I hope it flies back in. I can't remember the second point I was gonna make.
Yeah, I think that one of the sayings that I like to use too is don't let perfection get in the way of progress, right? A lot of people, they'll get on I'll call it a kick or a diet, or they'll try something new. And I encourage that behavior, right? You've got to start somewhere and do something new. But if you have a meal or an instance where you break down and white knuckling something, you just can't, and you break down, that is not a free pass to break down the rest of the day. You have every decision is another opportunity to go right back to that new path. Right.
Yeah. And learn.
Yeah.
Right. Learn from it, make the mistake, learn from it, make a different choice next time. The next hour or next 2 hours, you can make a different choice.
Yeah.
One thing I'm curious about is, what was the correlation here? So Rebecca, we were saying it in just at the beginning, like the two relationships are that you love is Jason loves himself and you love Jason, right? Kind of thing. But in all honesty, investing in your health is an act of self-love and self-acceptance. And can you talk a little bit about how you see that connection or correlation or what that means for you?
Yeah. Think about how you view yourself and value your self-worth, right? So if you think, man, I feel terrible and I don't look good in these clothes and I don't want to look this way every day, but you're not doing anything to change your direction or your trajectory on that, that's going to just bleed out in everything else you do, right? Whether you're parenting or with your spouse or whatever. So if you're trying to what's the right word? I guess if you're trying to constantly improve or get to your goal, you're likely going to be a better spouse, a better father, better, wife, whatever the case may be, because you feel confident that you're making strides towards your self investment. So that money in the bank that you referred to, you're putting money and investment into yourself. Now you can give out money to others, right? Because if you think about it, you can't give money out to others if you don't have any money for yourself.
That's right. There's no energy in the bank. There's no energy that can be given out.
I would love to hear you talk more about how that energy becomes contagious in our household, though, because, we have the 6-year-old who, has that conflict of wanting to be kind of wired with energy, does his little Kid Strong kind of CrossFit-y thing, likes ninja stuff, but really loves video games and would, honestly sit on the couch if we didn't make him move all day long. And then we have our daughter too, who has had her own journey through health, and is in this kind of throes of change, being in middle school now with all of the changes physically happening. And then there's me too. And, you and I are different in a lot of areas. Just our baseline approach to the world is that you are much more of an optimist. You're much more, I'm not trying to dog myself, but it's just, he knows if nobody else in the world probably hears my inner dialogue out loud more than Jason does. And his constant reminders to me about what, progress looks like, over perfection, or the importance of loving yourself. And, you said you like those lyrics. I remember, or you like using music and lyrics to draw on from, for inspiration. But do you remember the NF song that you were telling me the lyrics from? Okay, shit.
Yes, I do, but I'm trying to remember the exact wording of it.
Right. So I was, kind of down on myself about certain things going on in my life. And then in that song, they talk about, or the singer talks about how if you think that you're never going to be great, then you're never going to be great. Right. So I remember driving driving in our car, and I'm over there like telling myself kind of some terrible non-self-loving things, as I do to my husband, which I'm sure he appreciates. And we were like listening to the music, and you're like, do you hear this though? Like, think about that. Like, if you constantly tell yourself these things, you're never going to be great. You're going to get in your own way. I like my sleep. I can come up with a lot of excuses at times to get to the gym. I'm getting better at it, but what Jason has brought to our house in terms of demonstrating discipline and balancing having a little fun with food here and there, or, skipping a workout every now and again, which doesn't happen very often for him, but that energy is contagious and, kind of balances out some of my negativity sometimes.
So it sounds like it's a great balance. Yeah. So Jason, talk a little bit about how that energy is contagious or the impact it has.
Well, I'll give you an example with Rebecca. What's in the other room right outside your office right now?
The bathroom.
Keep going.
Oh, right. Okay. So
warmer. You're getting
yeah,
warmer.
I know. I'm like, which direction? That direction? The water heater? I don't know. So to my left, if you walk down the hallway, is 3 different sets of dumbbells. And
why are those there?
Because I decided to enlist myself in a competition at my gym, and I will be damned if I'm going to embarrass myself. So,
but I will tell you that if this were 4 years ago, there's not a chance you would do a home workout.
100% not.
That's not something I would have ever expected from you. But so talk about that energy and what it brings, right? I think I don't know if it's obsessive or if it's just pure discipline, but I feel like when my body feels like it can work out, I should be exercising. And so, but fitness, and just for what it's worth, I think it looks different on everybody, right? It's not, there's not you have a 12 pack of abs and you're shredded. That is not the definition of health. In fact, a lot of times those people are very unhealthy, and it's a very short period of time that they go through that. So the definition of health, I think, is important to note in here. But generally speaking, the energy in our house. So I think our kids talk about protein. Our kids talk about exercise. They talk about water. Mason understands that gaming is where Mason really would rather be gaming, no doubt. But generally, he will go out and he'll do pull-ups with me. He'll work out. He'll lift some weights. He likes going to Kids Strong. I think showing them that it's okay to have a crumble cookie here and there and still care about your health and fitness, right? We're not one side too far than the other, right? So there's a balance in our house. Sometimes it's more to this side, sometimes it's more to this side. So just kind of depends on the week that we go through. But I think you lifting weights in our basement and dragging down the trap bar for deadlifts and dragging out all the weights that you drug out is a great example of the energy that is kind of infectious in the house, because there's weights right out there and you put them in the basement so that you could use them.
Well, I mean, the thing too.
And what a great model. So Rebecca, I just want to call out too for you, like you mentioned earlier, the journey and how we evolve and things and if we kind of look at it like it's an adventure and you get to explore and experiment, like Jason said, 4 years ago, you would have never signed up for the competition. Yet here you are because you continue to experiment and continue to, and I think it's so important too, meeting ourselves at the age that we're at and doing exercises that we enjoy, right? So to your point, Jason, like having that you mentioned realistic expectations. Let's be real. I am not going to be the 25-year-old in shape girl, right? Like running around. I'm just not. And so to have that expectation is just setting myself up for failure. I am a 44-year-old woman and I need to meet myself right where I am. And what is healthy for me? Like what does health look like for me right now at 44?
Well, yeah, you also hit that on the head. It's what does it look like right now? Because what it looks like right now might be different than what it looks like 6 months from now or a month from now.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
what I'll say is stress bucket. It's time for the stress bucket. Okay.
Yep. I was just going to go
So,
there. Perfect.
yeah. So whether you're working, running a business, you have a 6-year-old and 11-year-old, or you're a professional somewhere, and then you exercise, all of that stress comes out of the same bucket. This is my theory, and it's not original, right? I've kind of put it pieced together from things I've read. But if you're super stressed out, your body is not going to adapt and want to, let's say you go build muscle, right? You want to go exercise and build muscle. Your body is not going to use those nutrients to build muscle. It doesn't feel like that it's in a good place to do that because your stress levels are high, your cortisol is high, you're not producing testosterone, right? It's dropped because your stress is low, you're not getting sleep, so it's dropped, right? So your stress bucket, and that includes marital stress, financial stress, work stress, exercise stress, all play a role in how intense or how much you can do in the given day. Walking is great, right? That is a great way to exercise. And so if all you can do is manage to get out and walk, I mean, that's a great place to start, right? Doesn't have to be deadlifts and bench presses and throwing barbells around like I do in CrossFit. If you can, great. But a lot of the days, anybody that works out with me and the days that I coach, I always say, do what's right for you and your body today. Because it changes every day.
And it's that yeah, I love that so much. It's also knowing like where am I on the stress meter today or this week?
Yeah.
And I've noticed, so I'm in a habit, and one of my habits is I weigh myself daily. And I've gotten to the point that there's no emotion attached. It's truly data for me. There was a time in my life, a season in my life, I would step on the scale and holy cow, that could set the trajectory of the day. But I'm way beyond that now. So for me, it's just data. It's just information. Okay, here's where I'm at today. Sometimes based on stress, I can see, even if I have a great healthy day, right? Or an exercise and all that, the stress and how amount of sleep plays. And it's like, okay, the scale went up a little bit, but I can see why. Or maybe it went down a little bit. Some days that I'm actually less stressed and more free and creative and flow, I actually see a difference on the scale too. So, managing the stress or being aware of it is so important.
I'd like to just touch on the scale, and you said something that's so incredibly healthy, which is you don't attach your day, your feelings for the day to that number that you see, right? And so having a data point every day is great because you can see the trends and what food and what things affect your body and how you feel and stress. But if that dictates your mood through the day, which you nailed, and it doesn't, great, do it.
Anymore.
Yeah,
It was
right?
a process. It used to.
But if it does, there is something to talk about, really tuning in to see how is my energy level? How is my day at work? How is my day with my kids or my spouse? All of those things to dictate, was today, am I on track or am I not on track, right? So really tuning into how your body feels more so than a number to know if you're on track or not on track, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because how can you really possibly love yourself if your entire identity is contingent upon a number on the scale, right?
Right.
I'll also add, if you want to look at, reducing, aging diseases and other pieces of it, having more muscle weighs more, right? It'll drop your body fat percentage, but your weight on the scale will go up. And there's only a couple of really good ways to measure that. Even the electrical impedance scales aren't the best for that. So generally, is your energy good? Is your strength good? Are you moving more? Do you feel well, right? Less so about the number, more so about
That's
feel,
right.
which is really hard to tune into, but it's a thing.
But yeah, because then that helps to have those different measures so that you're just not, to me, like the measure on the scale is like a big lagging measure, right? It's just a data point.
Yep.
Not to your point. It's not the thing.
That's interesting too, because for me, it truly is a lagging data point, because when I first step on the scale on a Monday after a, pretty heavy indulgent weekend, Monday, I'm usually still okay, but it's like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday that I'm like, crap, it caught up with me.
Showed up. It showed up.
Dang it.
Jason, is there any other concepts or things we haven't asked yet that you want to make sure that you share?
Yeah, so Rebecca hit one on the head. She said the weekend. And what I will tell you is if you think about in the context of all the meals and the routines and things, you're really getting in a good habit. And you're like, you know what? I eat my calorie goal every day. I move enough. I'm hitting a protein goal. And then the weekend comes and you have maybe a kid's birthday party, a piece of cake, and a pizza, and you don't move as much. There is something that one of the people that influenced me quite a bit said about winning the weekend, right? It's very easy to be in a routine during the week because weeks are set up for the routine, but it's very difficult to be in that same routine on the weekend. And so when you put your off days in, or you think about your cheat meals, or however you want to look at them, right? Or maybe you're just eating out of line of your normal dietary constraints, what you're trying to do, there's people that would say that putting that on a weekday and then trying to be more consistent on the weekends leads to better results. And I found that to be true. Is it easy? No. It's incredibly difficult because you're usually on the go and running around and have more opportunities for other things to eat or consume or not work out. But generally, like Rebecca said, I'm on the scale and it doesn't hit me till Tuesday or Wednesday. If we can erase that, that's where a lot of people that have tried to get their diet and exercise in order, that's where a lot of those pain points can come from.
Winning the weekend. How do you win for the weekend? And I love that. And some of it is just taking 2 minutes to maybe set some intentions and write it down. What's the plan for winning for the weekend look like?
What is the plan? That's a brilliant statement. Yeah.
What's the
What am I
plan
going to
to
do
win?
on Sunday, right? What am I going to do?
What's winning look like this weekend?
Yeah.
Meal prepping is a great way that I've seen Jason get ahead of it. And really truly too, just kind of like containing each food incident in its own little box so that you're not thinking, well, I just hosed up breakfast, so I guess the day is done. Like each eating incident is its own unique opportunity to make the best decision that you can make in that moment.
Yeah. Unpack the food prepping for us a little bit.
Yeah, so when I started in CrossFit and I dropped, I don't know, 30, 40 pounds initially, I was very diligent about meal prepping. And then what happened was life and kids and things. And what I've realized is I've spent a lot of effort, time, and energy to make it as simple as I can these days. And so if I meal prep, it's usually cooking a pound of ground beef or a pound of ground turkey and putting it in a couple of containers to pull out of the fridge for later. I have some nutrition clients that will grill up, I don't know, 30 or 40 chicken breasts, and that's a true amount of time investment in your meal prepping. It's not realistic for a lot of people, but if that helps you because you're on the go during the week, then that's a great way to do it. But originally when I started, it was basically frozen broccoli for my vegetable, and I would grill chicken, and I do that on Sundays, I think. And then I'd portion it out. And that's just what I consumed for a big part of my weight loss. And what I've realized now is that it's got to be less time consuming to get there. So I'm guilty of purchasing pre-made meals, like from a local store here or even an online place, just so I have something that is balanced nutritionally and I can just throw it in the microwave and go. Or I'm cooking loose meat and then I'll eat peppers or something natural with them. And then having rice on hand is a staple in our house. We have to have rice for carbs. You get some vitamins from vegetables or fruits, bananas, and peppers, and then it's ground meat. I mean, that is almost entirely my diet. You add in the protein bars and the protein shakes, that's about all I eat. And for 8 years now, I have maintained the size that I want to maintain after I lost all that weight, and I've packed on a lot of muscle over those years.
Awesome. So now when you're at the beach, take a new picture and go, look at this guy.
Well, people probably still think, that guy looks like he might work out.
It
right?
doesn't matter
But
what
we're not
anybody else thinks.
That's
It's
correct.
what do you think?
Well, what I'll tell you is that my vision of my health for me is exactly where I want it. And everybody looks different in their health, right?
That's right.
And that's the purpose of it. I feel very comfortable in my skin. I did not feel comfortable in my skin when I realized that there was something attached to it that I didn't know was attached to it.
But man, that's beautiful. And that's what it is. To your point, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or sees. It matters what you think and see and feel. You mentioned the word feel, and that's it. That's beautiful.
For some, that's big and bulky and built bodybuilder.
Yes.
For others, it's small and fitting into a pair of jeans, but you've got to gravitate towards how you feel and, you know, what makes you happy.
And so much about it's the energy management.
Yeah.
Rebecca, how about we do, you ready to shift, Jason, to what's saving your life right now?
Oh boy.
So a new segment that Rebecca and I are starting to do this year is what's saving your life right now. And so this is about any product. You started to mention some products you're using, any services, any processes, tools that you're using that help you to stay consistent and disciplined on
Yeah.
this journey. So what's a couple of things that literally right now you're using that are saving your life?
I think the first is this. There was a doctor who was a Navy SEAL, and Navy SEALs cannot be prescribed medicine because if they get deployed, they can't go out and be deployed. So they can take vitamins and supplements and things. So there was a doctor who was a Navy SEAL that when he met with the other Navy SEALs, they were divulging to him that they had trouble sleeping and they couldn't fall asleep and stay asleep. And so he said, take some magnesium. Here's some, what is it in a turkey that makes you sleepy? Tryptophan?
Tryptophan.
Yeah.
Something like that. And so he took a year off of practicing medicine with SEALs and made a supplement. And if it's right for you, great. But that is saving my life. It feels like the Sandman is sprinkling a little bit of dust right in my eyeballs at about 45 minutes after taking it. I'm just out.
Awesome.
And so that is one thing that is helping me stay asleep. I'm not getting up in the middle of the night as much anymore. That I would say is saving my life right now is a supplement that's got magnesium, tryptophan, vitamin D. It's about all it's in there, I think.
You know the name of it?
Sleep Remedy.
Sleep Remedy. Yeah, Rebecca, we can link up to it. That's something that, again, you know, just awareness, not promoting it necessarily, but that's something that's saving your life. Is there anything else? Do you use an app? You mentioned checklists. How do you use anything to track?
Yeah. So when I started my nutrition coaching journey, I was a nutrition client first of the person that runs it at our gym, and I got hooked on water. And so I use the measurement of the Yeti, no affiliation, to measure how much water I'm drinking through the day. So I try to drink 3 of those at least, which is 75, 77 ounces a day. So I try to drink 3 of those to measure my food. I tend to log in the morning and afternoon just to know where I'm at about midday. And then I can usually balance it out from there. And I use my Fitness Pal for logging that. I use my Apple Watch to track my sleep quite a bit because I think that that's an important. There's a study that says that if you have a bad night of sleep, it's like eating poorly for a couple of days is what the impact has on your body. And so I'm trying desperately to get better sleep and improve my sleep routine, but it's difficult.
But it does sound like you're making some progress there.
And
you got some tools that are helping you with that.
It's been helpful. And I think generally what my understanding is a lot of people in the population can benefit from magnesium. I always encourage people to get blood work and a blood panel done and see where your levels for all that stuff are before you get on supplements. But
yeah, that's great. So Jason, as we kind of wind down here, we've covered a lot of ground today, and it's been fun. I've really enjoyed our conversation with you today, and thanks for sharing. If there's like 3 key things, if you were to take the 3, most important things that we've talked about today, what do you want to leave our listeners with? The key things.
The same path leads to the same destination.
Yep.
And there's no wrong place to start. Right. I think people trying to start on a health and fitness or a wellness journey, they're stressed, they're eating poorly, they're not exercising. Pick one, right? Don't try to boil the ocean. Just pick one and get moving down it. There's not a wrong place to start. So that would be kind of number 2. And find whatever it is that triggers that consistency within you, right? It's not a race. There's not a destination. It is a journey. And it is a journey every day. Every day I'm thinking about protein. Every day I'm thinking about, did I exercise? Do I feel like exercising? Every day I'm thinking about water, right? And then I can go on about my day. But those are the check boxes that I have to meet every day. Or I try to. I don't always, but I try to.
and listeners, I know we've talked a lot about nutrition, right? The last couple of episodes, but when I can't think of a better way to love yourself and invest in yourself in some of these things. The meal prep, the paying attention to that, the getting the sleep. That is an act of self-love. So, hi, Fred, that you could show up for these little cuties,
Mason
right? In
is
the way that you
here.
want to.
Hi,
Hi.
buddy.
Say hi.
Hi, Dad.
Hey, man. How's it going?
I can see Rick and Morty right here.
You can see Rick and Morty.
I can
The
see.
Mr. Meeseeks? Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Meeseeks.
What do you
It's
think?
from Mr.
Do you think Daddy is super healthy?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know? That didn't
Hey,
work
Mason,
out the way I planned.
what's one of your favorite exercises to do?
Mason, what's one of your favorite exercises, buddy?
I would say pull-ups.
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 Yeah,
Loves his
Nice.
he's working on him right now, aren't you, buddy?
See?
Can do a couple.
Yeah,
Focusing on his health.
Yeah.
that's right.
It's
All right.
never it's so important.
Back to your video game.
But yeah, I just think
This
that these
is
topics.
what's outside.
And
It's
Oh
a-
yeah, I know it's
a fake
snowing.
snowball.
Yeah.
Okay,
It
See you
is
in
a
a minute,
snowy
buddy.
day, y'all.
we
as
can
we're
edit this
recording
out.
as we're recording this. Why? No, I love it.
Okay.
It's real. It's a real life, right?
Real.
And the thing is I think it was beautiful how he popped in because we were talking about investing, taking the time to invest in ourselves so that you can show up and be the example and be the parent you want to be the spouse, be the person, all the things.
Absolutely.
Rebecca, anything you wanna drive us home here?
No, I mean, I just want to thank my husband for taking the time to come on, and for being an inspiration for our family. I know I'm going to end it on a cheese note, but he truly is he has helped really anchor us in a lot better decision making here. Jason and I always laugh that we have a codependency, and while we may make other choices in how that shows up in our lives, we eat differently, we work out differently. Either way, though, we try to inspire each other into taking an action that we can both feel like we're proud of. So I think that's something that for me, in trying to love myself, it helps to have somebody who is demonstrating that self-love and still loving me too, in spite of the fact that I sometimes fail to meet my own goals. So, but no, I mean, I think that this feels to me like we're having a conversation like we do in our living room. And you educate me all the time. And I know that all of our listeners will be thrilled to hear the kind of knowledge that you've just bestowed upon us, because you're so passionate about this. You are a data guy, but you also back it up with real life, emotional, physical, mental experiences too. And what it takes to walk out your own health goals, alongside all of the other things that you're trying to balance. So I know that I've gotten value out of hearing it in this capacity as well.
Me too. I've learned some things. I've taken some new knowledge I'm taking with me, and I hope everybody else has too. It's been great.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, and you guys are very flattering, so thank you so much.
Buttering you up for our date tonight.
Yeah, we have a date.
Jason
Tonight I
made
will not be tracking macros just for.
Absolutely not.
Thank you. Thanks, Jason, for being here.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of What in the Well. Be sure to review, rate, and subscribe to our podcast. And if you have a topic you'd like us to cover, share it in the comments. Stay well until we meet again.